Hey guys, all right. I just gotta give a shout out to Danny because he's got more faith than I do.
You've been from Florida.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. No,
cool.
I'm not from Florida. I'm from Florida, and I'm not for Florida. I mean, look, I don't know what it is about Florida and having these really tight situations, but they really love living on the edge. I really want to see this team succeed, but the Houston Outlaws looked so good, Necra, yesterday, and of course, we've seen these two teams fare off against each other before.
Yes, we have. So, like, the last time that the Florida Mayhem and the Houston Outlaws played against each other was during the regular season. It did go to 5 maps, so maybe there's a little bit of hope for us to be able to get a great close series on our hands, but I feel like since we ended up seeing them in the regular season, both teams have really leveled up. Maybe Florida Mayhem getting a little dizzy with the compositions that they're running, but Houston Outlaws looked at the top of their game during the tournament so far.
Yeah, it goes down to what Jake was saying earlier. Can the Ram comp really come through for the Florida Mayhem? Houston Outlaws, though, in terms of consistency and fundies, this team's really got it. We saw some of the best Overwatch being played yesterday between the Outlaws and the Atlanta Reign now as we get started for our first series. Necra, it's been a wild journey so far this weekend, but here we are in the lower bracket finals already, and we've heard it from the desk. The journey that the Florida Mayhem have had since the very beginning, losing to the Hanjo Spark, and now here they are. They clawed their way through that bracket. We are starting things off on our Antarctic Peninsula.
I mean, the lower bracket run for the Florida Mayhem has been absolutely insane. And that speaks to the volume of just how good these players are at really being able to clutch up when the situation actually counts. And, you know, coming off of the win at the Pro-Am, you ended up seeing them have a great start to the season as well, but they're looking to close out the first half very strong here. Against the Outlaws, though, that, I mean, they're coming through from the upper bracket. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
A little nervous here for Florida.
I mean, the thing is, Houston Outlaws, again, they just look so good. This is the reason why this team is one of the top 2 teams in the West, and also displaying that here in the Midseason Madness. The performance that they had against the Atlanta Reign was amazing, but also the capability of adapting, which is what I'm worried about when it comes to this series. As we get started, you see the crowd going crazy. We saw some cosplay in the crowd as well. You'd love to see the energy from our Korean audience. It really doesn't get any better than this.
It really doesn't. And especially when both of these teams have so much on the line right now. You're playing for that 3rd place spot. You're making a name for yourself as well as one of the best teams in the West. As we are going to get a little brief technical pause before we actually kick off the action.
Pelican, real quick, just checking something. Better early now before you start off with the series in case you don't feel comfortable with what's going on here. But touching up earlier on the history between these two teams and what we've seen already to qualify to even be here, we talk about the adaptability from the Houston Outlaws and the changes that they've brought into what they feel like they should play into their strengths, and which is what we've also seen with their map choices in the previous series that lead up to this final day. Even though it went to a Game 5 versus the Florida Mayhem in the last time that we saw these two teams play up against each other in the qualifiers, Houston Outlaws ended up coming out on top in the last 2 maps in that series. Houston won, I believe it was map 4 on New Queen Street, Push. We know how a Push is when it comes to the Florida Mayhem. They sweat a little bit, they struggle out here. And then map 5, they also won against the Florida Mayhem on Nepal. So it's about ramping up to see that you don't have more of these close encounters that Florida Mayhem obviously are very familiar with. We've seen it all throughout this weekend too, playing in these Game 5 situations. And that was another situation that they were also trying to come back from a Game 5 situation.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about the way that the Florida Mayhem have approached a lot of these series and just kind of the history that this team has had for this particular season is just kind of looking at how they approach control. This has been a very good game mode for them, so if they're able to get the win on Antarctic Peninsula to kick off our series, I feel like Florida Mayhem are going to feel a little more confident moving forward, especially knowing that they have a bit of wiggle room there when it comes down to playing out Escort and Push, which really have been their struggle points in these past few series.
Yeah, and you know something else that I consider, we talk about the Ram composition from the Florida Mayhem. Let's not forget that it was Florida Mayhem themselves that made a note that Gargoyle Ram do be going crazy. They said that, and you know, we've seen Gargoyle coming out when it comes to playing on that flex tank and certain maps, and you know, when it comes to AP here too, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of those close quarter fights as we get set up again. Looks like everything is good to go. Just making sure everything is tested here. But also wanting to note the energy from the crowd. Every single time we got into a single game, the crowd was erupting. Yesterday, day 1, 2, we see the arena getting filled up by everybody. It's going to be a good time here for our finals day.
Absolutely. But both of these teams, of course, they have a tall task in front of them. Not only do they have to win this match, but then they also have to go forward to play the Atlanta Reign. And that's been the favorite pick to win the entire tournament, looking at their undefeated record from the regular season. But Houston Outlaws did give them a run for their money yesterday, and so I think that's why they are ending up as the favorites coming into this match.
Yeah, they played so well. That was an insane game. Anybody who missed out on the upper bracket final, definitely recommend you check out to see the journey that has brought the Houston Outlaws to where they are currently in the lower bracket final. Florida Mayhem obviously also making that lower bracket run as we get started already.
We're going to see the Roger Brawl come out from both of these teams. A little bit of a different look coming out from Florida, though. They really like to play this aggressive style of brawl, and especially when Checkmate's going to be putting up the icicles like this. A nice repeat from what we ended up seeing from Checkmate yesterday.
Yeah, Checkmate is absolutely insane here. What a great first pick in favor for the Florida Mayhem. Also going to deny that EMP charge opportunity that's going to play into the win con for the Houston Outlaws.
I think the other thing about this particular composition, though, is when Merit is going to be able to play this Reaper, you get a chance to get really good damage onto Fearless, or at least you end up forcing him to be able to use those cooldowns to try to negate a lot of that damage, and that leaves him vulnerable for when the fight goes on a little bit longer.
What about these raid bosses from the support lineup of the Outlaws? We talk about the best supports in the league right now between the Reign and the Outlaws, and they are out here. See, currently having the high ground as someone is going to try to duke it out between Fearless, who's incredibly low right now. Manages to get saved by Shu, who has a nice off-angle position here right behind him. Someone, though, is not saved. Pelican is going to be able to find him. Nice wall also set up by Pelican as he's approaching the Blizzard already.
Pelican's going to get that Blizzard online so fast, even outpacing Checkmate at this point, but it's RuPaul with the Coalescence first that's going to be able to get the drop on Pelican while he uses the Blizzard.
And Necro, that's the change up here too. The Cole, yes, it charged up incredibly quickly, and that's the difference between what we see from the support lineups. But it's Shu out here that had the Nano Boost, Fearless, cleaning up what is left of the Mayhem, and it's spin up on IO4 as now the Houston Outlaws are able to retake the point now.
And that's going to be really good for them when you take a look at the economy of how they ended up playing into that last fight. Happy's going to get the EMP online, and this should be a really great tool for the Houston Outlaws to rely upon in order to shut down the Florida Mayhem as they start to reapproach this point. The big key target is going to be Chorong that has that sound barrier available, so Happy's going to want to try to deny that to allow the Houston Outlaws to find success here.
See if they can get behind them, too. Take a look at the ult economy. Florida Mayhem, they only used up that Coalescence in that previous fight to stop the engagement from Fearless. Didn't work out here as Happy's already set up on the high ground, waiting for the opportunity to unleash the EMP. And as you mentioned, Chorong just trying to play safely. Happy's trying to isolate them in the back before trying to call it out. And as the sound barrier is unleashed first, before that EMP comes out, that's going to benefit them. Even though someone pops the Annihilation, can this turn things around here? It helps them with survivability with that sound barrier at first, but it prevents Checkmate from utilizing the Blizzard. It's a trade for trade after the Outlaws lose out on Shu. Look at Fearless position here too, playing right around the barrier here. Trying to get our way, and the Maywall coming up from Pelican. It's another trade. Now it's a support lineup with Violet going down, Shu making his way back, and Merit with the Death Blossom has finished off what is left of Fearless. This is a great scrappy fight that we're currently seeing right here, and RuPaul had used another Coalescence earlier.
Going to be a big switch up for Chorong to go over to the Kiriko, get this swift step online to get back to the team as Florida Mayhem are able to take back control of this point. Pelican was able to get the Blizzard online in that last fight, so Houston Outlaws have a great way to be able to crowd control when they come back in for the recontest. But Checkmate has one too.
Oh, we've seen this before.
We have seen this before. The
Checkmate,
flank.
yes, and it's always a great communication between Checkmate and Merit in these type of situations.
But do they know?
They don't know. Look at Violet. Look at the position between Violet. As Checkmate is inching forward, look who's right there here too. He's trying to get in. He defeats the Translocator now as he's been able to isolate Shu, but Shu still sends out the Nano Boost, isolating him, sending out the Blizzard here. It's also Pelican on the other side, but Checkmate, he got exactly what he wanted, and that was Shu in this situation. Happy went down without able to use the EMP here too. Maybe still wanted to hold on to it since Shu had gone down first in that fight, but nearing 90% already now in favor for the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, this is going to be exactly where that EMP is going to matter as Houston Outlaws, they've got to win this next fight here in order to win this round. You got a lot to work with, but Pelican is down already.
This is huge here, but the trade losing on Choron. It's only up to RuPaul, who tried to send up the goal. Looks like got canceled right out of it here too. Currently see the Annihilation activated between both Someone and Fearless. 99% as Someone fights two. Merritt going down. You currently see Someone now rounding around the side of the point, trying to find Happy. Translocates right out of there. Overtime ticking down as Someone is trying to prevent them from getting right outside of this window, putting Florida Mayhem in the driver's seat, knocking down the overtime, and round one goes in favor for the Florida Mayhem here.
Florida Mayhem played such a great control in that game. They were really able to make sure that they were taking over that space efficiently, and that sneaky coming in from Checkmate to try to go flank behind and use the Blizzard. Being able to get that translocator out of the way meant that Happy wasn't able to come in and be able to help support that backline when they ended up falling to the Blizzard.
Man. Both Blizzards being unleashed at the same time, but in that moment, it was Checkmate going for the sneaky crouch approach to isolate Shu there.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked in that situation, and that's what allowed Florida Mayhem to actually regain control over that point.
Well, Florida Mayhem are going to be switching things up here a little bit. As we head over to Icebreaker, this is one of the rounds of Antarctic Peninsula that we sometimes see those tanks switch over to the Reinhardt. And with Merritt also picking up the Cassidy, this is a hero that started to fall off in popularity a little bit looking at the regular season. But what Merritt is able to provide with this long-range hit scan is these off angles, and Icebreaker has some great architecture to be able to play around to make sure that you are set up to get those sight lines.
Yeah, let's not forget we're playing on the patch before the Jungle Queen buffs out here too, and that's with Cassidy falling off, and falling off here back to the spawn here is going to be Pelican finding that heady onto Merritt. Going to be able to take over the point with that ice block. Nice ice wall now to try to isolate Someone. Strong trying to set him up into position. Nice pressure coming in from the Florida Mayhem despite Houston Outlaws taking control over this point here first. But it's the battle between the Reinhardt and the Ram that we continue to talk about throughout the entirety of the season thus far.
And it's going to be a tough one, I think, for Someone to be able to get into this, especially when Choron goes down. There's no way to be able to micro-maneuver around the point.
All eyes on RuPaul, who has the window here. Survivability has been insane so far, but he's going to want to hold on to it now, losing out on Someone. Checkmate getting hacked here. Houston Outlaws take this team fight at the beginning.
And they were able to get control of that point so early as well. So they're already starting to work on that percentage progress to try to be able to tie up this map and go into a third round. Happy meanwhile as well. Look at how many ultimates are going to be on the board here for the Houston Outlaws. Yes, Florida Mayhem have the amplification matrix from RuPaul. However, even though if you're able to lay that down, there's a great way for Houston Outlaws to flank behind. Maybe even get a little bit of a surprise Blizzard or a surprise EMP here.
And Annihilation here too. Nano Boost Annihilation here. Yeah, the Nano Boost was put onto Fearless right now. Violet gets taken out though after Violet pops the rally, but it doesn't even matter. Here comes Fearless, still holding onto the Annihilation, using that Nano Boost as advantage and clearing out what is left of the Florida Mayhem, losing out on another team fight before it even looked like it began here.
And the even more important ultimate the Houston Outlaws were able to hold on to was the EMP. So now the Houston Outlaws are approaching up to that 75% mark. It's going to be one more fight for them, and they can win this round. So the fact that Happy still has this heavy-hitting ultimate is going to be huge here.
Ooh. See Happy waiting to get into position before rejoining with the rest of the Outlaws. That communication. Someone looking for the opportunity as the EMP comes out from Happy. Here comes Strike now, here too, the double. Someone finding Violet was beautiful. Now, after using that Shatter and the Fire Strike here over on the other side, Checkmate manages to wrap around the corner, finds Fearless, someone popping off, now finding Shu. That is only 3 left for the Outlaws, but at 99%, that was detrimental for the Florida Mayhem to take that fight.
Yeah, but that amplification matrix placement was so beautiful from RuPaul. And with Checkmate getting a pick onto Pelican as well, this is going to stall out the Houston Outlaws from being able to regroup and get back into this one. The other thing about the Houston Outlaws coming back is they're really going to try to take an eco push here. They want to try to get as many ultimates out of the Florida Mayhem as possible, but they're farming.
The 2-for-2 deal here for Checkmate. He's definitely going to take one of those. Eat it for free out here while they back up, but that's a good amount of pressure and time wasted away from the Houston Outlaws to then rejoin again.
Exactly, and Pelican right now is going to be the closest player to an ultimate. But if they keep getting picked like this, it's going to be more trouble for them to try to come back in as a team of 5. And Checkmate has the Blizzard as well. Florida Mayhem might start to get on a roll here.
No way. Someone What have you eaten? The May wall, blocking the only escape route from Fearless. Can he get away with Shu feeling the pressure too? That is the shish kebab between Fearless and Shu. The 2-for-1 again now. Checkmate finding him. That's 2 out for the Outlaws and more time wasted away after they had the advantage.
At this point as well, Fearless is going to switch over to the Winston. Wants to be able to jump onto the back line as RuPaul is playing a little bit more of a dive target in that Baptiste. It also is able to get the Immortality field out early if Fearless is able to play it right. But the big thing is that Shu does have the Nano Boost, and that's going to go right onto Fearless.
And as Fearless jumps in, amazing opportunity to isolate Merit, and now the Blizzard coming in from both Pelican and Checkmate. You mentioned the Immortality field, both are off the table here, but Chorong is the first one to go out, and that means the backline has been eliminated from the Florida Mayhem. Yes, you have that desperate shatter with the overtime ticking away. Houston Outlaws, though, have cleared the floor from the Florida Mayhem. We got a great series on our hands here, Necker, and now it's tied 1-1 apiece on the first map.
Oh, and this next round is really where it's going to start to get tough when it comes down to these brawl compositions. Heading over to sub-level. And that's where you can see sometimes the dive, sometimes you see the Ramatra rush. It really depends on what these teams are going to start to feel comfortable with, but it's going to be a great litmus test heading into the next maps of the series as we get a chance to check out this replay from Fearless, that Nano Boost really bolstering up his attack.
Without having to use the Annihilation too, this is the second team fight that we got to see in that second round here, cleaning up what was left of the Florida Mayhem. Beautiful. Now getting started, round number 3, seeing some change-ups here as well, looking at the Florida Mayhem. Yes, they've been changing between the Lucio more, but now we're seeing the Kiriko now coming out.
Yeah, the Kiriko Baptiste. This is a very aggressive backline coming in from the Florida Mayhem. Chorong has really started to pick up this hero in order to be able to get some nice shots in with those kunai, especially if you're able to hit the headshots, you're going to be able to start to delete targets in the backline like Shu and Violet. So this really allows Chorong to play a bit more aggressively, but you do lose out a little bit on the burst healing when it comes down to not having something like the Ana, but the Baptiste is able to cover that too.
He can do that 150 damage out here onto Happy if he's pressuring that back line. That's something that Chorong can look out for here as Fearless tries to jump on top of the high ground. Also, someone gets hacked and then anti right afterwards, but RuPaul with the saving grace on the Immortality field, helping him replenish that health, and Checkmate taking a nap in the back. Don't worry, though. See Chorong right next to him here as Fearless tries to capitalize. Nice split high ground here, though, splitting the attention of the Florida Mayhem. See someone being able to pick off Pelican for that. Houston Outlaws now looking to see if they can disengage, since the point now is finally going to get unlocked and now go in favor for Florida Mayhem.
Fearless is still trying to play this one out, though, especially knowing that Shu has that Nano Boost online. So Fearless can take a little bit of a step back, try to get healed up, wait for those cooldowns to come back so he can find the right target to jump onto. But someone's got control of this high ground now, but here comes the Nano Boost.
Oh, you see the Nano Boost onto Fearless, but Violet, someone again finding him, and Chorong finding Shu with the heady here. As Shu had put down that Nano Boost onto Fearless, that's an ult wasted away here from the Outlaws, and Florida Mayhem are going to be able to restabilize with a plethora of ultimates of their own.
Florida Mayhem are such a scrappy team as well. You're seeing them take a lot of these 1v1 fights. They ended up isolating a lot of their targets, like what you just ended up seeing there from Fearless, and the follow-up has been there. So Florida Mayhem really on a roll here when it comes down to this Ramatra brawl, but you got to be careful because Happy, playing the Tracer, got the Pulse Bomb ready to go. Really going to be trying to look out for somebody in the back line. Pelican too. Wait for him to get into a position. Are Florida Mayhem going to give this up?
Oh, the communication coming in to isolate RuPaul. His Immortality field gets a lead in it. He's been a problem. His survivability is amazing as the Blizzard gets called in from Checkmate. The rush as well from Chorong here, but Merit with the Pulse Bomb is going to be able to find Shu. Still, the number advantage goes in favor for the Houston Outlaws, but not for long when someone had used up the Annihilation earlier to find Violet. That's Violet going down without utilizing the rally here as her Pulse Bomb gets sent out from Happy. Doesn't find the stick, but don't worry. Pelican is the insurance policy that you need to finish off what is left of the Mayhem to flip the point.
RuPaul's gonna pop the amplification matrix as well. Even though they're down a few members in this fight, they might be able to get this done, but unfortunately, Fearless is just putting on too much pressure into the backline. That was an expensive fight for both teams. But Violet is still going to have that rally to be able to utilize in this next fight, as Houston Outlaws are now starting to look down, having to play this out perfectly. The sustainability will really help the Outlaws to be able to withstand something of the pressure of someone, especially when you look at someone wanting to try to play a little bit more forward in the front line.
I know we already know this, but Fearless is just absolutely insane. The way that he positions himself to go for those shorter hops to close in the gap without overextending to keep himself in the line of sight of Shu, who is enjoyable to see as Happy does get hacked here by Merit, looking around. Ooh, trying to predict where the recall was going to set up Happy here. Still, Happy's going to be able to survive, and Shu's going to be able to stay on the high ground. You can see on the other side, someone trying to contest the backline of the Houston Outlaws, but don't worry, Daddy Fearless is here to protect Shu and Violet, and so is this rally. The follow from Pelican is going to be able to punish someone for getting a little overly aggressive out here on that high ground without an escape option. Meanwhile, Jordan RuPaul hitting a nasty nade onto Happy, Fearless, and Violet, but then immediately get restabilized by Shu again, who still has a Nano Boost here. Checkmate, finding Happy. Nano Boost put onto Fearless here, and he's also got the Primal if he wants to live for even longer after the Nano Boost is done. Violet, though, while he's stuck in the side room, you know you're dealing with a Wraith Demon. He's gonna be able to find two, and someone gets the revenge after he comes in. He pops the Annihilation, finds the opportunity, since everybody was just funneled inside of that side room with Violet.
And end up seeing Fearless pop the Primal Rage as well, as Happy's going to switch over to the Ashe. That Dynamite damage going to be a really great way to keep the Houston Outlaws with control at this point, especially playing on the high ground. But look at Merit. Wants to be able to play with that, but the Dynamite there to be able to sniff out Merit and where he's hiding with the Sombra. This is going to be a trade of the backlines here as we come down to the last fight.
Can't get past Happy out here with that Dynamite while we take a look at Merit. Destroys a translocator from Pelican. Yeah, because he's got the EMP. He has no escape option here, but it's fine. With overtime taken away, they have to push in on this. Prevent the Florida Mayhem from trying to contest here. Saw the rally that was activated from Strong as the EMP goes out. It costs Shu Violet's life and catches Shu and Fearless here. They get the trade. Checkmate going down thanks to Happy being set up on this position. Who can stop Happy, though? This is a good spot for the Houston Outlaws to stay on the high ground. Also, Houston Outlaws staying on the point while the overtime ticks away. The numbers are dwindling for the Florida Mayhem to allow the Houston Outlaws to sit in the driver's seat. Fearless being the nail in the coffin as the Houston Outlaws take map number 1.
That was such a slugfest, though, when these two teams were going at it for Antarctic Peninsula. Felt like it was so back and forth there, and especially very dependent on whether or not these Sombras were able to hit their marks.
Yeah, and even though we even saw was Violet at one point go down at the very end of that fight first, it was the way that the Houston Outlaws had set up on the high ground. And remember what the Deaths I talked about, they're very quick to adapt depending on the comp switches that they need to do on the fly. Well, we saw the Ashe switch coming out, getting set up on the high ground. Who's going to check right now when you're on overtime and you don't really have the movement ability to try to contest where Pelican was here?
Yeah, it just has to be the Sombra in that case.
Yeah.
And sometimes that isn't enough, especially when you have the Coach Gun. You're able to do a lot of burst damage to that Sombra, which forces her to translocate. But if you're going to be able to have somebody on your side like Happy and Pelican just kind of working together, Pelican is able to have a good read on where those translocators are. And
they also were able to nail down what the primary problem was for the Florida Mayhem. And we talked about RuPaul's survivability earlier on. In the first 2 rounds, he had only died once. He was doing a really good job at disengaging when those fights seemed at a loss. And in that final round, we saw that a lot of the primary focus was to prevent RuPaul from also allowing Merit and Checkmate to set up here too. So great awareness from the Houston Outlaws. Don't expect anything different here. I mean, this is the Outlaws at the end of the day as we take a look at some of these highlights here.
RuPaul with the Coalescence. I really like the Moira pick coming out from the Florida Mayhem. It makes you just have such a cleaner frontline brawl when it comes down to being able to help Ramatra stay alive. But I think as well, when you look at just the coordination of the Houston Outlaws, that can really reign supreme when you're able to get Happy and Pelican set up next to each other, and the fact that they're able to cover each other's hero pools as well gives them so much flexibility.
Someone had some time to shine there too. We saw the first shatter that led into the double fire strike to try to clean up that first fight in the first round here too, as we get to see Pelican also trying to get set up and isolating Torong here. Nice communication from Fearless and Pelican to try to make sure that there was going to be put extra pressure on that back line, saying Checkmate as well, being able to find Happy in the feed. But Violet, this is where we saw the raid boss actually go down in that side room. You'll have to see it. And then we saw someone also retaliate with the Annihilation. A lot of back and forth going on so far in this series. And we are moving on to Kings Row for map number 2, Necro.
It's going to be a really great showing here, as this is going to be the Florida Mayhem's pick to move on to that next map. And you know they've got something up their sleeves here when it comes down to being able to use something like the Ramatra.
Yeah, we got to see how that's going to play out here. On the other side of this break, we got map number 2. Welcome back, everybody, to the Midseason Madness. We're in the lower bracket final, and we just wrapped up map number 1, Houston Outlaws, taken after the 3rd round, Necro.
It was such a big map to kick off this series as well. Just so much back and forth happening between these two teams, and it makes me really excited to see what's going to happen next. Look at all the love for Houston Outlaws as well. I know they have such a big fan base, both in the West as well as in APAC, so really nice to see them show up here today to support their team.
Yeah, I love seeing the crowd, love seeing the art out here, guys. Don't forget, hashtag OWL2023. I know a lot of you guys are rallying behind Danny and the Florida Mayhem. They need your support.
See, we got some Florida Mayhem fans out there too. Honestly, the crowd has been so supportive of both of our teams. They just want to be able to see some great games, and this is already delivering that.
See it slowly pack up here too.
I love that little drawing.
A little penguin. I mean, we did just play on Antarctic Peninsula, so that Hanzo skin also has my heart here.
I know, right?
Check Barrett.
Aww.
I love
They really
it.
do make the perfect combination, don't they?
They do. They really do. All together now. And we got to see what our next map is going to look like as well, Necra. And a little worried here because we know how good Happy is. So we take a look at the side-by-side on the Ram after that first map very close here in terms of the hero damage done, and the survivability as well here. Someone and Fearless are playing very back and forth. The final blows do go in favor for someone as well as ult efficiency, but we also saw some swap-ups going in from someone.
Well, so this speaks to how good someone is when the Annihilation is online.
Yeah.
And for the other side of things with Fearless's Ramatra, we're really looking at his ability to play with the team. Like, the lower deaths really speaks to the backline helping to make sure that he can stay up.
Yeah, and it also really highlights the backline, though, from the Houston Outlaws and keeping Fearless alive. The communication coming in to allow Fearless to make that space, as well as calling out the issues that are coming from the Florida Mayhem. Like, they were able to pinpoint RuPaul and his survivability in that second round. Very quick to adapt here while we're getting set up.
Heading to Kings Row is really interesting, though, because we saw Kings Row for the very first time in this tournament yesterday when we saw the Florida Mayhem take it to the Boston Uprising. It was Boston Uprising's pick, so maybe Florida Mayhem feeling a little confident, knowing that a lot of these teams haven't had practice on this LAN stage playing this particular map except for them.
Yeah, you talk about the structure of Kings Row here too. The verticality that it provides, allowing you to really take control over the high ground is going to be a priority. Fearless obviously wants to make sure he can clear that space up there. We see Echo sometimes coming out here on Kings Row. But when I think about Kings Row, I also think about the open sight lines that you have, especially before you get that payload out of the garage, leading up into the close quarter fights that you find in that point B section. And I think about Happy, one of the best hit scans in the league out here that could really excel on Kings Row. Yes, Florida Mayhem, they won against Boston Uprising. That was a very difficult series for the Boston Uprising, and to even watch it play out. And Florida Mayhem may be feeling themselves after now picking it for the second time that we've seen so far all weekend long.
Exactly the point that I was trying to make there earlier. But I think what's going to be super interesting to watch is how someone and Fearless decide to approach this particular map. You talk about the verticality, Fearless definitely going to want to play into that one, as his Winston is very strong. But when it comes down to the streets, Ramatra, very good.
That's
very
true.
good.
Yeah. And opting to be on the defense here, while the Houston Outlaws to go on the attack. See how this is going to play out here for the Florida Mayhem in terms of their positioning.
Really smart for Merit to go ahead and auto-pick this Ashe to begin with. Expecting Pelican to come out on the Echo. This is a look that we've seen from the Houston Outlaws many times, especially when you look at how Tracer and Sombra don't necessarily like to play on this particular point. Too many very obvious flank routes for both of those heroes, and so you know that they're going to be able to get sniffed out pretty easily. So that's why we're going to see Pelican out on the Echo, and Happy actually picking up the Hanzo as well to really make great use of the wall climbing capability.
Not even surprised here too. Look at the way that Happy's just trying to find these angles, knowing exactly where Merit is currently. And Chorong's like, don't worry, I got you. Get down, Mr. President. As you currently see Merit getting hit with an anti. Things coming in incredibly early already as Pelican having to get away from the open sight lines here as Merit tries to send out the dynamite and someone capitalizing, finding Pelican. Huge here as Happy's also going to fall low. Talk about wall climb just so that way he can try to reposition himself. Not trying to overextend, but it's about controlling this high ground that is so important for this first point.
You're going to see the Vortex come out, though, so someone already going to be able to get some nice dot damage onto the Houston Outlaws. The slow as well being really important. But look at how they're isolating the back line. They're all getting closed into the back of point as Florida Mayhem start to get sandwiched.
Oh, someone activating the Nemesis form. Duking it out, fighting him in the ring here. Doing so much damage while RuPaul's also under some pressure. No help from someone, though, as Fearless is going to be able to now find someone and Merit. This is what we're talking about, controlling the high ground. The priority from Fearless here, especially on that Winston, is going to be able to control so much space. Yes, he's taking a nap here, but the rest of the Houston Outlaws are still here.
That's why RuPaul just didn't have a sight line there onto someone. He was getting locked down by the front line of the Houston Outlaws, so it made it impossible for him to be able to poke his head out. So a really nice capture here coming through from the Houston Outlaws as the payload gets unlocked and we enter into the streets phase. Checkmate is already going to make the pivot over to the Tracer. Plays way better on the second point and into third. And you also are able to start playing around with these flank angles.
And it also plays into the second point, what you mentioned earlier with the Ramatra playing in this close quarter alleyways here. Happy still set up on the high ground. Chorong's just trying to utilize that shield to prevent Happy from getting any sort of impact. He knows exactly where Checkmate is. Checkmate can't be as cheeky as he thought. Nano Boost put onto someone here, but the Houston Outlaws are taking a much more patient approach. They're just going to wait out this Nano Boost. No reason to really contest here while they're still by the choke point. Fearless is going to be able to leap into the back line. Nano Boost onto Fearless. He's trying to isolate Chorong and RuPaul, now having to go for a reposition. Seeing that the Florida Mayhem are all split up, you're going to be able to take out Merit because he's alone with no help. You saw where Chorong and RuPaul was, and then Pelican is able to fly over and finish whatever damage that Fearless was able to put down here.
Despite the fact that we see Merit on the Ashe, Pelican is getting away with murder right now. This is so difficult for the Florida Mayhem to be able to play against because, especially when you're going to play the Ramatra, you have way less ability to end up shielding the rest of your team. So it falls onto Chorong to be able to help make sure that the backline is staying safe, or you end up putting up that shield for Merit in particular to be able to operate.
And with Fearless subtracting Merit from the equation at the very beginning of that previous fight, that means that Merit can't deal with the issue in the sky, which is Pelican in this case, who has Duplicate currently. Violet's got the rally ready here. Mayhem also have a plethora of ultimates to work with too. Ooh, here comes a Duplicate here. Pelican is going to be able to copy that Ramatra. Someone also has the Annihilation ready, but with Chorong activating the rally, just trying to keep the rest of Florida Mayhem stabilized. The Annihilation now comes out. Nice nade from RuPaul, hitting onto 2. Pelican's still in this Annihilation form, by the way, before he gets booted right back to the Echo here, backing away in time, and it's the disengage and the communication once again being shown by the Houston Outlaws to call out when these fights need to be backed up. Checkmate trying to go for a cheeky false one stick, but it did not stick right there.
No, but at this point, Houston Outlaws are trying to play with this Dragon Strike from Happy to split up the team. They're going to do that too as Chorong gets taken down.
Their only escape route blocked by the Dragons right here. Someone gets the trade though. Chorong and Violet, and Checkmate finding Happy puts the Florida Mayhem in the number advantage. Houston Outlaws now losing out on Fearless next, and it's going to have to be a reset here for the Houston Outlaws.
This is getting dicey though for Houston. Yes, they were able to get the cart forward a great distance. 2 minutes left on the clock, though, for them, and just a little bit more. Shu's Nano Boost can go a long way here, though. That's really the only ultimate that they have in their bank, and because that fight was so expensive, at the very least, Shu can help to try to get Fearless's Primal Rage online as quicker, or maybe even make Violet into a raid boss here. Either way, it should be a good approach here for Houston, as long as they're able to get something done with a Nano to be able to get another ultimate online.
Very situational, especially depending on the positioning that we're seeing here. Florida Mayhem playing, again, a little bit split up like we saw initially. Pelican just trying to figure out an opportunity to see where the Florida Mayhem are stationed up on that high ground. Shu does have that Nano Boost like you mentioned, trying to find Chorong here. Nano Boost activated onto Fearless as he's been able to isolate the backline of the Florida Mayhem, needing some help here, but RuPaul finds Pelican. They too trade that off for Chorong before Fearless manages to back away in time, but he gave this back to the rest of the Houston Outlaws, and that has enabled Checkmate here. Seeing the trade-off once again, Merit being able to find Shu as Violet comes right back in. Checkmate has been almost unkillable at this point. He was trying to find, as I said that, he was trying to find these different flanking options, and Happy shutting him down almost immediately.
This should be the Houston Outlaws being able to get this second point capture, but the respawns are coming in really fast here for Florida, and they've got ultimates to boot as someone's going to get the Annihilation.
Oh no, and as someone with the Annihilation, the rally was also came in, and Happy with the pulse bomb.
They got the point.
Chorong is actually huge here.
Wait, they got the point.
What? They were able to get the point in that previous fight. The rally was used, the Annihilation was used, and now we're seeing Violet Zen.
Someone was right there. He had the Annihilation,
here too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had the sustainability, he had the firepower to be able to dish out, but Houston Outlaws, they're able to clutch up that second point and get them a little bit of extra time. But I love that you called out the Violet Zenyatta, because that's going to be really fun to see the burst damage come through from the Houston Outlaws, especially when you're going to end up playing into some of these more heavy-hitting ultimates here with the rally being online for Florida.
You're also going to enable the follow-up damage here, as we saw the swap up from Violet back to the Brig. Wondering here if maybe Pelican going to be able to try to get the follow-up from the Discord orbs here. Shu's trying to check in the back for Merit.
I think it's too difficult to run the Brig. You've got Merit and Checkmate, exactly.
Oh no, but hey, with Fearless rather finding Checkmate here and Shu getting hacked in the back, going to be able to take that pick and close the distance in this next corner here. The rally is going to be activated from Chorong. Checkmate has that post bomb ready. But Pelican on the high ground, someone needs to contest him. Merit being back on the storm means that you don't have that sit scan to deal with Pelican, who now activates the duplicate here. Be able to copy someone's Winston. You see the way that Florida Mayhem are backing off in time. Yes, you get hacked, but this isn't working. It's like Merit's EMP that they're so desperate to use. You have less than a minute now on the clock while the payload is taxing along. Fearless finding RuPaul here after Shu had used the nano boost earlier on. Choron going down next here too. The backline has been deleted from the Florida Mayhem, and Violet's about to get the next rally.
Look at this, as someone goes down as well. The rally helping to bolster up the defenses. Merit, though, can't touch.
Get a touch here, trickling down one by one, but it's too much pressure. Even seeing the desperate swaps from the Florida Mayhem into the Kiriko here wasn't enough. Houston Outlaws had a lot of momentum rolling forward after we saw the swap back to the Brig. We saw the duplicate coming out as well. The Echo wasn't really dealt with that entire time.
All kicked off with a nano boost right before capturing that second point as well. But what a big misstep there from the Florida Mayhem to not be able to contest the cart before that ended up sneaking over the line. As we take a look at the side swaps, Florida Mayhem, yeah, Pelican was a problem. The Ash wasn't enough. None of that hit scan pressure onto the Echo was able to take Pelican down. So I would assume that Houston Outlaws feeling pretty comfortable on that pick with also all of that pressure. They'd be able to play that on the defense too, but cannot happy either.
And that was actually insane. I mean, this is happy Hanzo. We've seen this before, the impact coming in and the swap
Any of the snipers.
Right? Yeah, it's happy it's game. Come on. And Houston Outlaws nicely taking that payload all the way to the finish line. Less than 35 seconds on the clock here for them, but I'd like to talk about the survivability for Shu. He died only once in that round so far, and he was doing a really good job at helping enable Fearless and preventing really Merit from being a problem after we saw Merit make the swap over to the Sombra.
Well, you called out something really important during that attack push from the Houston Outlaws. And that was how well they were able to kite away from any of that incoming damage. You saw the nano boost go onto someone. Houston Outlaws backed up right away. So Shu was able to keep himself nice and safe. And I think that's another thing that Florida Mayhem are going to have to play around is that the way that they were trying to approach the backline just didn't work. But let's see what they're able to bring on the defense here.
Checkmate. This Echo right now, you know Pelican is feasting. While sticking to the Sombra Tracer comp here, while Violet is sticking to the Zen here, which is very interesting when it comes to the damage output that they're looking to get the follow for Fearless and Happy. As Merit finds the heady onto Violet as we talk about it. No Discord Orb is going to be a problem here.
Nope, not anymore. Now that Violet's out of the picture, it really does rely on the Houston Outlaws getting into the backline. Violet's actually going to try to get back a little bit faster, hope that the Immortality Field maybe would be a great piece of the kit, but Violet actually going to stick over to the Zenyatta as Houston Outlaws got to give up a little bit of this point to wait for Violet to get back.
Florida Mayhem too, the way that Checkmate's playing around statue here, Pelican translocating away. Still holding onto the high ground, it's going to be Fearless. Now repositioning. The way that Houston Outlaws, once again, kiting away from the pressure that is the Florida Mayhem to rejoin together, regroup. Someone gets hacked by Pelican, building into that EMP. Nice anti-nade onto Choron as Merit gets healed up again by Choron here too. Fearless taking a nap though on the high ground. RuPaul's gonna be able to finish him off. Violet then gets revenge onto Checkmate. Those are the Discord orbs really coming through. It's fine. You got Violet with a nano boost on him from Shu. That's Violet doing all the damage that he needs to do to waver off all the pressure from Florida Mayhem.
Florida Mayhem have to start to capitalize on this one though, especially when Fearless is out of the picture. And you don't want to check into that hotel.
Catch me outside on the side room of this hotel, bringing out the guns. It's going to be someone finding Violet and finding the payload out of the garage, while Checkmate is going to take a much more aggressive position so that way they can clear this next corner.
Well, they don't want the Houston Outlaws to play around the bookstore, especially if they're tracking the ultimates. Pelican does have the EMP online, and that would be a lot of pretty much a momentum stop here for the Florida Mayhem after unlocking this payload. So you will see them play a little bit more aggressively here, but Houston Outlaws trying to get into a position as Pelican, yep, he's looking for it. He's looking for it. They want to take this fight around the bookstore. Houston Outlaws have a great defensive position from there.
And they know where Happy is too. That could be a slight indicator on where Pelican could be approaching from, but he's on the low ground here. Trying to see. Choron also swinging away. Right in position here to unleash the MP.
Good checkmate.
Just waiting for the most impact that he's got here as the EMP comes out, and they immediately capitalizing, finding Chorong. RuPaul getting caught in the line of sight of the EMP, and it's Merit with the Dragons, clearing the space and trying to isolate Fearless. He's got the Primal, who'll definitely be able to survive these manages to get away. Again, it's a disengage from the Outlaws to recognize the situation as the Vortex controls some space, trying to slow down Fearless. He activates the Primal, he jumps away in time. The hack coming in too, as well as the sleep here, as Violet has that trance ready. Nano Boost now onto Fearless, just to prolong all the extra pressure that he was able to put on originally with the Primal now finding Merit. Nice anti here, but it's not going to help you out. He's going to be able to back away once again in time, because it's Happy that's going to be able to retake this payload, prevent any more pressure, as Merit makes a swap over to the Sombra. Checkmate now, the trade-off trade. Losing out on Shu, and Checkmate losing out on Happy against Happy here, rather. And he's got the Pulse Bomb ready for this next fight. A lot of scrappy fights here for the Florida Mayhem to deal with in these alleyways.
They're so split up. Houston Outlaws have really been doing a great job of controlling this space so that they're able to take these 2v1s, maybe these 1v1s, very confident in their ability to be able to duel up against some of these members of the Florida Mayhem. Violet as well, though, on this Zenyatta has been able to put so much pressure with these Orbs of Discord, but I would be worried now that someone has that Annihilation. He's been able to get so much work done with that ult.
And it's the survivability here, too, that the Outlaws were able to go right through that previous fight, now setting this up. Violet falling incredibly low, and it's the Annihilation Necro that you mentioned here, allowing someone to find the problem. Taking control over this higher ground, Fearless, you're the next victim here, but he jumps away in time. A lot of pressure now coming up from Florida Mayhem, with Pelican also falling low. He's about to get this EMP. It'd be crazy to survive through this, but they've lost out on Shook here, and with someone moving all the way forward, it's to help enable the rest of Florida Mayhem to close that gap.
I think that's okay for the Houston Outlaws, though. They get one more attempt at a defense here, and with the EMP that you called out, they also have a Nano Boost coming online. Houston Outlaws have a great chance at being able to stop the cart here. The one wrench that could be thrown into their plans is Chorong's rally. If he's not caught in the EMP, then he's able to come back in with that, but there you go. There's
nice EMP, yes, and it cost RuPaul's life, which means the Nano Boost won't be involved in this fight. Yes, Chorong had activated the rally in a nice frame right before the EMP was unleashed to help sustain someone here, but again, it's only up to Chorong for that survivability, and it doesn't look like it's going to be enough now that someone goes down, thanks to Fearless capitalizing. Happy now finding Chorong over the side, and Shu going down with the Nano Boost ready. They'll be able to re-engage here, and there's 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock for Florida Mayhem to get to the second point.
Florida Mayhem are going to have someone switch over to the Winston, as they are looking at that time bank starting to quickly expire. But Florida Mayhem want to try to play off the back of this EMP as well as Checkmate's Pulse Bomb. He's been really great at landing these so far in the Midseason Madness tournament. So as long as he's able to get one of these members down, that's going to be really great to maybe force out an ultimate here. Violet's Transcendence, I get a little worried about that one for Houston, but Merit versus Merit.
Oh, Pelican knew this was coming. It was looking for Merit after doing the points, knowing that he was right behind them. You can even hear him too. The EMP was unleashed from Merit earlier, catching Happy. We'll be able to get back into this fight just as quick as he is on that Tracer. And Houston Outlaws still maintaining all these ultimates now as the Nano Boost is put onto Fearless. They have that Transcendence too to help with that survivability, but it's about clearing up this high ground here. Less than 30 seconds now on the clock, Necra.
It's going to be a really rough one for the Florida Mayhem to get through. They have to be able to use this Nano Boost and the Pulse Bomb.
And it's cycling through the survivability. You're done with the Nano Boost, now you activate the Primal here from Fearless, as Merit now on the high ground. He's the one with the Nano Boost put onto him from RuPaul. They lose out on Chorong. It'd be nice to see that raid battle earlier on with Chorong being the one with the Nano Boost, but that's not going to be the plan. Happy sending out the Pulse Bomb, getting that stick, finding RuPaul. Checkmate's going to be able to find Shu, so it's a back and forth Transcendence from Violet to help the Outlaws move away to then recontest here. It doesn't look like the Florida Mayhem are going to be able to put a toe on this point.
Oh, they're going to try, though. You got the Chorong Lucio coming back, but that looks like it might be it.
Oh, no, here. Florida Mayhem, nobody's left to touch the point, the fist bump. The aggression from the Houston Outlaws to take map number 2 while they're sitting already at match point, Necra.
That was a quick map there coming through and pretty decisive from the Houston Outlaws. That was Florida Mayhem's map pick as well. But the fact that the Houston Outlaws are able to force these dives into the Ramatra, they're really able to get some nice work done with that. And I'd really like to see the Florida Mayhem at this point as a last-ditch effort to keep their series dreams alive, try to go toe-to-toe with the Winston.
Also, the impact that we saw from the Sombras, like Pelican had 14 enemies hacked. Meanwhile, I believe Checkmate only had like 4 or 5 at that point. It was very difficult to let Checkmate to work into that win con. The Florida Mayhem really wanted to excel in with the EMPs here. losing out on another map now. It's Florida Mayhem living off their last lives potentially. But so much on the line here with the Houston Outlaws really feeling themselves, and it's about those disengagements. They're so good at knowing when to disengage. They lose on a one body. That's already enough for them to try to take a different angle or to then try to re-engage when they're fully grouped up together.
I mean, Houston Outlaws, too, when they're able to take these...
little penguins?
I don't know. They're pretty
so
cute, though. Yeah, but, you know, Houston Outlaws, when they're able to force these fights, these 2v1s, right? Or these 1v1s, just the raw mechanical skill that the Houston Outlaws are putting down is really difficult for the Florida Mayhem to deal with when they're not able to play grouped up with a brawl composition. That's what the brawl is so good for. As you can see, Fearless, exhibit A of how he's able to isolate a lot of these targets. Merritt can't get any sight lines onto the team.
And then on King's Row here too, Fearless just gets to get into position so quick. Florida Mayhem still trying to stick to this Ram comp as well. And we saw at one point too, someone in this situation actually had used the Annihilation and stepped up the point just ever so slightly, allowing the Houston Outlaws to then capture that point when they were the ones on the attack that time around here too. Fearless also being able to isolate the backline and get the follow-up with Happy was beautiful. Let's also not forget the time when they were on the attack. Pelican was literally just running it down here on King's Row without getting interrupted. No one really to check him there.
Paul hitting some nice sleeps though. I love the impact we're able to feel from the Anas on both sides, whether it's Shu, whether it's RuPaul. Shu though with the nano boosts has been able to find so much value.
And this goes back to what we're saying. The impact between Pelican, the EMPs coming in, that allowed them to find RuPaul as a first pick to deny the nano boost that would have been online for that fight. So much here that is being diffed between the Houston Outlaws and Florida. Now we get to move on to map number 3, Necra, and we are going on to Rialto.
That's an interesting choice from the Florida Mayhem. I feel like the Houston Outlaws were able to do a great job on Rialto yesterday, despite the fact that it was a loss versus the Atlanta Reign. But
yeah.
We also haven't seen this coming out from the Florida Mayhem yet this tournament.
We'll be able to dance it up here on Rialto on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it because the Houston Outlaws are currently sitting at match point.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up.
Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Get your weapon, get your blade out. Damage, then you gon' pay up. Yo, crank that volume, turn it way up. Turn it way up. Turn it way up.
Crank that volume, turn it way up. Way up.
Houston currently poised to meet the Atlanta Reign in the finals to take the trophy home. They are currently sitting at match point 2-0 right now versus the Florida Mayhem in the lower bracket finals.
Florida Mayhem have had a tough go of things in this particular series. Looked really close on Antarctic Peninsula, but even on their map pick of Kings Row, Houston Outlaws had a very, very dominant performance. And now we're going to be heading over to potentially the final map in the series.
Necker, on their map pick that they were undefeated on currently in the season until that moment right there. So, you know, trying to go for a comfort pick that didn't work out in their favor, now moving on to Rialto.
That could be a confidence buster. That really could be a confidence buster. You know that you've been able to put up the numbers on that map, but this is going to be another chance for the Florida Mayhem to get back into the series. But Rialto is kind of a head scratcher for me. They haven't picked this map at all when it's come to the Midseason Madness tournament. We've seen most of their play on Shambali Monastery to pretty middling success, but maybe they're trying to switch things up here as we head over to Rialto, see if they can get it done.
See what's going to work out for them too. You know, they've been really trying to force out this Ram here, and that was what we were kind of expecting going into the Midseason Madness. We've been seeing a lot more Ram incorporated from the West. How was that going to fare against AVAC? I mean, we know how that story played out, but now seeing the Outlaws playing to what Fearless does best, playing in that Winston.
What's really interesting about the Houston Outlaws' approach to this map is we don't have any subs coming in from either team. Houston Outlaws have the ability to play Gargoyle in their roster, very well known for the Diva. We see a lot of Diva play on this map in particular, but we actually didn't see the Houston Outlaws do this yesterday either versus the Atlanta Reign. They ended up playing Fearless on the Winston, which is something that we're going to end up see them hover over at the very least for the attack. But here's the crowd. They are cheering on their teams right now. There's been a lot of love there for the Houston Outlaws as they are going to get ready to make their attack push. But the Florida Mayhem are going to set up on this Ramatra Brawl once again. Except Merit on the Widowmaker. Things might get a little spicy.
I love it. I love it. Whenever we see...
Happy Farah?
Oh, we're committing.
We're committing.
Okay.
No,
maybe not.
No, we're not.
Listen, like that. I'm like,
he
there's
tried.
no way.
He tried, but that was a really great way to be able to get the concussive blast off, try to push the Florida Mayhem back, do a little bit of scouting, and then go back to spawn to be able to lock in this Tracer pick. But what an aggressive backline here for the Houston Outlaws.
Merritt dancing around, just trying to call out Pelican, who he knew was there. You can hear the shuffling sometimes. Silver gets a little too close to you here. Backing away in time while Pelican manages to get away. Fearless is going to have a lot easier time and getting right back to the high ground here, and they're trying to pinpoint Merit. I was going to mention earlier, you love hearing the crowd go crazy when you see that one hit scan shot nailed down on a head here, and Fearless falling incredibly low, forcing him to back away in time, but the health pack was also denied by Checkmate. He took it before he was able to get to it, and Violet gets hit with a nice anti, having to back Violet away here and wait for the rest of the Houston Outlaws for Fearless.
This is one of the big issues of trying to play against the Tracer, right, is they are able to be a little bit quicker to the punch, be able to grab those health packs, but Houston Outlaws, if they're able to get set up here, Pelican could hack those to make sure that Fearless has access to them in the future. But wow, Pelican just has Merit's number right now. Does not want to let that Widowmaker get set up. One pick from Merit could be disastrous for the Houston Outlaws attack.
Trying to extinguish the campfire on this high ground here for Merit, so that way Merit can feel a little comfy. RuPaul is doing a really good job too, to just be his saving grace, holding his hand, braiding the friendship bracelet here together here to make sure that Pelican isn't an issue. But while Merit is set up, it's going to be difficult for Shu and Violet to close in that gap. The Nano Boost is going to enable Fearless to help him out, and Violet finding Merit, finally, the target that they've been trying to nail down from the beginning. Now it's going to force the Florida Mayhem to collapse right underneath them. Checkmate on the high ground here too, just trying to work magic, and someone taking a nap while the rest of his team is back in the spawn.
Someone is just trying to stall the cart for as long as possible. He is able to get back to the cart before this is going to reach the checkpoint, but he allowed some time for the Florida Mayhem to be able to respawn so that they can get ready for this next defensive attempt. They did buy a lot of time off the clock as well. You have the sights being activated here from Merit. You get a lot of really nice intel on where the Houston Outlaws are going to come from. But Houston are coming in with a lot of ults, Vicky. I'm looking at that EMP from Pelican right now. Their harassment of Merit was good.
The rush also activated here. Projection 2, Chorong with the rally. Fearless also activating the primal. Zooming away here. Going to be able to reposition just immediately right afterwards. Nice anti again once from RuPaul. Pelican still holding up to EMP until right now finding 3. Gets into position to find checkmate someone and Chorong. Right after that rally was done from the Florida Mayhem. That was a Houston Outlaws again healing away to help out both Shu and Violet and then waiting for the rally to end. Re-engage here. It's the EMP now. Someone has the Annihilation. Enough time bought in, and that's going to be space as Fearless tries to run away. He still manages to survive. I don't even know how he managed to live through that thanks to the nano boost from Shu. Meanwhile, Happy, while all the attention from someone's on the front line, was able to get that pulse bomb. Pelican now also finding someone, Florida Mayhem. It's the split up scrappy fight once again that we saw in Kings Row, excelling in favor for Houston Outlaws.
Houston Outlaws able to get this first checkpoint. They had to throw everything that they had in the bank to be able to get that cart over the line. But it was worth it in the end. You have 3 minutes now to work through this second checkpoint. Merit still trying to get set up on the high ground here, but Happy looking for somebody in the back. You're really looking at Chorong and RuPaul right now as the best targets for that. But Merit also is constantly hacked.
Every single time. Merit can't breathe. He can't take a break. And Shu finding Chorong and that nice anti right after that here. Amazing nades from Shu. I mean, I'm not surprised here. Yes, they're going to be able to find Shu, but that's a trade that they're absolutely going to take with the backline deleted from the Florida Mayhem.
Look at how aggressive Violet is getting with the Kiriko as well. Oh my god!
That's why.
He just walked right
all
into
the Tracers be crying. They all know that situation, Necra.
Oh, he just walked right into the sightlines of Violet and into the loving arms of the kunai. Violet is able to just get so slippery when it comes down to being able to use the Swift Step. Eventually, Merit is able to take him down, and that's going to delay the attack push for the Houston Outlaws just a little bit as you see them kite away, try to disengage. But Florida Mayhem don't want to give this up.
Goodness, the double whammy. Pulse bomb stick to someone deleting Shu right afterwards. Restabilizing here. It's the Florida Mayhem finally. It's the Houston Outlaws getting called out between Fearless and Shu, but we're also going to have Fearless coming up with the Primal soon.
Primal Rage and the Kitsune Rush as well. That's going to be a really nice altitude to be able to lay down right in front of that second objective. Houston Outlaws have to get there though. Even if you don't lay it down there, you're able to at the very least be able to use it to try to push the Florida Mayhem back.
Saw this exact event play out here earlier too. Fearless activating the Primal, going to be able to use that speed boost to just move all the way up, but he's taking a nap. It is RuPaul that's going to be able to find that sleep. Someone wakes him up here too as Merit is just trying to reposition as well. Merit finding Violet is going to be big, and that's why he's been the primary target for the Houston Outlaws to nail down. Someone's going to be able to find Fearless, and that plan immediately shut down. They used the rush, they used the Primal, and now you have less than a minute on the clock to get to that second checkpoint, and they're getting staggered.
They are getting staggered here, which is going to delay their ability to get back to point.
Wait, hold on.
Pelican's trying. He's trying. He's been doing this for a couple of fights now, but at the very least, you know, get a little bit of cart progress, maybe get a little bit more damage to be able to get this EMP online. He was already only a couple percentage away, but now that you know that you have this ultimate, Pelican's going to be looking to get into position for this one, as this is the last chance for Houston to try to get the second objective.
And it's the Hail Mary that Happy's trying to pull off here too with the Echo, because Merit has been on that high ground, and this EMP now deletes and following up. It's going to be Fearless here, and they have Shu's nano boost to try to claim that second point. If it could be the nail in the coffin, they have to deal with Chorong's rally, and someone still has the Annihilation for the survivability. Houston playing again split up, and they got to put a toe on that payload because he got less than 5 seconds to force the overtime.
Well, it's going to be 2 seconds remaining. Is anybody on the cart? It looks like somebody's going to be able to get there, but there is a contest.
Violet going down here first, and the Annihilation that was being held onto from someone is going to be able to find the backline here, putting that extra pressure. Houston Outlaws nowhere to be seen here to continue the push on this cart. Florida Mayhem are going to be able to clear this out, and Happy's going to be the last one to fall here. It's one by one as they trickle down Necro, but the Houston Outlaws, they were trying to cycle through these different picks, but they couldn't really nail down the problem. They got him a few times, but that was their primary focus, and it was going to be Merit.
Well, I wonder if they should have put their focus on somebody else. It wasn't working to try to target down Merit there. Yes, you're able to stave off the pressure of that hit scan for just a little bit longer, but at the end of the day, you're really looking at someone through Matra that was just putting in so much work. Houston, they struggled against that strong defense from the Florida Mayhem. That looked really clean from them to be able to play around these stairs as well as these pillars on the second point.
Yeah, there was 2 instances where when they did find the opportunity to even use the Kitsune Rush into Fearless's Primal, they were able to find Merit twice during that second checkpoint point. And in that moment, someone had Annihilation those 2 times. And that's what was able to clear out the point, forcing Houston Outlaws to then play split up. And one by one, they were picked off, especially the backline between Shu and Violet. They were feeling the pressure of the Annihilation, trying to give someone that space so that way it could run out here. As we take a look at the replay, is Checkmate gonna be able to get that sticky and then finish off what was left of Shu here.
That was the problem. Checkmate was the problem. Merit, yes, a little bit of a problem to try to duel against this aerial unit from Happy, as Happy did switch over to the Echo towards the tail end of that round. But Checkmate was really the big issue. Putting up that damage on the Tracer, maybe, you know, not too far off from what we ended up seeing coming in from Pelican onto that particular pick as well, but just like basically doubling the damage. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, Pelican survivability is definitely there, but
that was better.
Yeah, it was Checkmate that was doing a really good job at also trying to help peel for this back line, as we get to see setup already go on. Happy.
Oh no!
The crowd erupting here for him. RuPaul is the first one to get taken out while Houston Outlaws are holding onto this high ground.
This is why you have Happy being able to play the hit scan. Whether it's the Hanzo, whether it's the Widowmaker, these are heroes that Happy excels at. And that's why you're able to put Pelican on something like the Tracer and have them swap roles a little bit when it comes down to who plays the Tracer and the Sombra. Houston Outlaws have to give away a little bit of leverage on this point, though.
Oh, he actually got it. The double heady that Charles was able to put down, annihilating Happy here. Great advantage to set Florida Mayhem up on the driver's seat as someone gets hit with an anti from Shu. Now trying to claim onto this high ground, it's Merit. Trying to deal with the pressure from Fearless, who, by the way, we talked about the Ram Ditto now coming in between both these teams. Nice anti now coming in from RuPaul to Fearless. He falls very low. Happy's back, but Charong still finds Happy again. Now they're going to be able to nail down Happy, get some revenge after they were just trying to nail down Merit. But now the DPS lineup of Florida Mayhem have been taken out of this equation. It's Violet and Shu who are upset, trying to retake this high ground.
So Shu's able to keep control of the high ground now, able to help heal up the rest of the Houston Outlaws that are available. Happy's going to be able to get back into the mix very quickly, but Pelican just kind of locking down those sightlines right now, throwing out the pulse bomb as Happy is able to take advantage of the setup.
And that's why Chorong was trying to deal with him, because Happy is very happy setting up on
feeling
this
himself.
Look at him.
Yeah,
like
he's smiling over there. He's smirking. He's absolutely smirking.
Merit, meanwhile, then finds Violet. It's the trade-off here. 1v1 between Merit and Happy in the setup.
Happy has the sights available. This is going to put some pressure onto the Florida Mayhem to just lay low for a little bit. They don't want to get taken out by Happy. Happy has been able to get a first pick after first pick on this round, and if he's able to get another one with these sights active, it's not good for the Florida Mayhem.
Sights activated. See where Checkmate is here. Know where he's going to be at back end. Fearless trying to take control over this high ground while the rest of the Florida Mayhem try to contest him on it. And Fearless now being able to find Merit with the nano boost being put onto him. He's about to get the annihilation. He has it ready here. But he's already forced the rest of the Florida Mayhem off this high ground. It's fine. It was all of the Florida Mayhem trying to contest Fearless, and he's absolutely going to take that because Necker, look at the time bank. He got a minute and less than 30 seconds now.
And Florida Mayhem are just getting their first ultimates online in this round. They have a lot to be able to work with, though, really looking at something like the annihilation from someone to help push Fearless back. But Fearless has one too, as well as you have the rally. That's a huge difference between the two compositions that are being run right now. You like to talk about the survivability. Violet's going to be able to have that in spades as the rally comes online for this defense. And Chorong with the Kitsune Rush has to be able to push that back.
See how they're going to be able to use this with less than a minute now. Dragon's sent out. Someone taking in all that damage. He's got the annihilation ready. Ooh, the pulse bomb put in, but nice retaliation with the nano boost from RuPaul. Someone activating the annihilation means that Fearless gets taken out right afterwards. Right when you're down 40 seconds left here, Fearless couldn't use his own annihilation. Tries to back away in time before someone then finds Violet right afterwards. Happy literally running away with his life, but it's fine. They're going to give this space over to the Florida Mayhem so that way they can get set up on the high ground here.
Looks like there's a bit of a contest coming through, though, as Happy's going to take a rotation around. Now that Fearless gets to come back with the Annihilation as well, this could put the nail in the coffin here for Florida Mayhem's run.
What?
The EMP, though.
What? Okay, EMP coming in here, too. The anti onto Fearless, but the Annihilation isn't going to be enough. Florida Mayhem with a good fight from the Houston Outlaws to delay the inevitable. They finally get this first point to add some extra time in the time bank.
In overtime, though, you've got 2.5 minutes now for the Florida Mayhem to be able to reach that golden box of victory. We have to see a bit of a swap up, though, and that's going to be absolutely big as Florida Mayhem's going to go back to basics. This is a composition that they ran on Antarctic Peninsula. They're very comfortable with this, especially knowing that RuPaul has some great sight lines to be able to shoot that Coalescence down once it gets online.
Working into their strengths with the rush. Florida Mayhem trying to contest Houston Outlaws also on this high ground. Hat coming in from Checkmate onto Shu. Checkmate backing away right now before he just translocates out of danger. That's going to work into the EMP that they want here as well. Fighting on that catwalk bridge here. It's going to be Pelican having to back away, but Fearless putting in a good amount of pressure here without wavering off. You have to take a look at Checkmate, who's constantly being a pest on this backline. Splitting up some of that attention is going to allow the rest of Florida Mayhem to walk through.
Look out for this nano boost, though. Shu has a great target in Fearless right now as you're looking for him to be able to hold down the front line.
Hack onto Chorong, who's about to get the sound barrier. Nano boost here from Shu, like you mentioned. But he's getting set up in the back. You still have to worry about Checkmate, who's doing a really good job at trying to split that attention. Annihilation online for someone. Playing around the wall pillars here. Golden Box of Victory is right there as the Vortex comes out, and Shu puts down the Nano Boost onto Fearless, but it costs his life as Violet tries to help him out with the rally. It's not going to be enough here. It's the trade-off because they lose out on Chorong, which means the sound barrier not going to be utilized here either. The EMP, though, finds RuPaul someone in Merit. Merit has the Death Blossom, and finding Violet here to clear up that space. They have less than a minute now left on the clock, and Pelican is the next one to go down.
It's going to be on to Happy to try to stall out this card as long as possible. Violet's going to try to get back here on the Batiste to at least be able to lay down the Immortality field, but Fearless is going to have to make this Annihilation work.
Oh, EMP now coming in, and even though the Annihilation is online, the Immortality field from Violet helps keep Fearless alive. Oh my goodness, with the Annihilation, Fearless putting in the damage, but he has got no support. The backline's gone because Merit had the Death Blossom ready. He fights Shu and Violet. Happy retaliates, gets the bolt on pick, but Necra, it's not going to be enough here. Florida Mayhem are in this series, and they take Rialto.
Great ultimate execution coming in from the Florida Mayhem to keep themselves alive in this series. Their tournament lives are on the line here, and they're playing like it.
Merit at the end with that Death Blossom. Even though he got picked off by Happy, he took out the problem that was Shu and Violet. Look at the face of the Houston Outlaws. They're still sitting at match point. RuPaul is there taking a deep breath with a mini pop-off before they hydrate here, but the Florida Mayhem coming in with the comp that they feel comfortable with and finding the success at the very end, making the adjustments that they needed.
It was a smart switch up as well. Knowing that you're going to be playing in those close quarters, especially on the high ground by the stairs of that second point, that Reaper applies so much pressure to the Ramatra on the other side that you don't really have a choice except to try to back up and get away from that damage. But that space really allows those DPS choices on the side of the Florida Mayhem to have that space to work with.
And with the Death Blossom coming in at the very end, too, you saw him getting into position. The EMP had been unleashed already at that point. He was able to get follow-up here, too. We'd love to see the fans also getting really excited.
But that was also after Chorong had actually Ajaxed the beat.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't go anywhere. No, and that's actually really impressive from the Florida Mayhem as well. They were able to hold on to the aggression, wait for Chorong to come back. They didn't even need the sound barrier to try to finish out that second point.
Actually insane there. It was going back and forth a little bit, too, at one point. I think it's all about the positioning that we saw from the Florida Mayhem at the very end. Wow, what a series we got here, Necra. Can't wait to see some of these replays here that was played out on Rialto. But it's the comeback. I don't know why Florida Mayhem love to play like this, right, Necra? Like, we constantly see them making these comebacks, and whether it's the reverse sweep that we currently see from their opponents, they always are playing with their lives on the line, and it's so stressful to watch.
It's always map 5s. It's always map 5s with both of these teams. And hopefully it's not Houstonable this time around. Houston Outlaws, though, we're going into push as our next game type.
Oh my goodness.
And Houston hasn't had to play this very much. They just haven't had to play the push very much.
And we know the unfortunate circumstance when it comes to Florida and these push maps here too. The odds are stacked against them here, but this may be the momentum that they needed to sway back into their favor. We saw what a problem Checkmate was. You highlighted it before on that first round here too. Someone with the Annihilation is what to clear up that point until they made the swap ups between Merit to swap right over onto that Reaper. Deal with Happy at the very end. Overtime ticking away here. But even Chorong that we saw get the double heady, oh, that was insane. Finding Happy, who still was enabled at some point to get the reset up in this point, and this is where they denied most of the time away.
They did deny a lot of time here, but Florida Mayhem ultimately had all of the tools to be able to work with, so many ultimates on the board at the right times as well to be able to make sure that they were going to be the second to hit.
And we are rendezvousing back to New Queen Street within these two team matchups. This is something that we've seen before. Necra and Houston Outlaws came out on top. We're going to have to see how this plays out now as we move on to the next map. Currently, Houston Outlaws still sitting at match point, and we'll come back with the next map on the other side of this break. Florida Mayhem keep their chances alive to claim that trophy themselves. Houston Outlaws still sit at match point right now, and we are moving on to New Queen Street, which has some interesting stats, Necro, between these two teams actually as we have them pulled up.
Yeah, Outlaws are undefeated on this map. Atlanta Reign ended up actually playing against them yesterday, and despite the fact that they had some really interesting picks coming through on the side of the Atlanta Reign, Outlaws were able to have dominant control of this map in particular, and it makes a lot of sense hence why they would want to take them here. And we've seen a lot of struggles from the Florida Mayhem overall on push as a game mode.
Yeah, between Esperanza, push in general. I mean, Florida Mayhem may be their demon out here. Don't have that nice record that the Houston Outlaws are repping. I mean, alone for this weekend, they are sitting at an 0-2 stance, looking at the Florida Mayhem side of things. So very difficult situation to come back from, but also you just won the previous map. You've had 2 days to figure out what you got to do differently here on push.
Hopefully that's going to be enough time for them to work with to make those adjustments. I think a lot of what Florida Mayhem have really needed to be able to do is just rely on their intuition a little bit more. I mean, look at Checkmate's stats here on the Tracer. He has been able to put up some numbers, and while, yes, we talk about the Atlanta Reign having one of the best Tracers in the entire league right now, Sombra as well, you can't count out Checkmate, because even coming into this particular tournament, he was second in a lot of stats, fourth, top 5.
Yeah,
easily top 5.
Look at the pulse bomb attach rate.
Like, that's nuts.
66.7%.
That's above average.
Always trying to mark down Shu and Violet if he has that chance. You talked about it actually a little bit on Rialto when we saw the Houston Outlaws trying to nail down Merit as the problem. Meanwhile, Checkmate was enabled, opening up their backlines here while they were so fixated on trying to dive onto Merit. Well, Checkmate was really that problem there. Its pulse bomb attach rate is beautiful. See that? 900 hero damage done, and currently getting set up right now. It's going to be a map that they have to conquer.
This is going to be a tall task, though. Houston Outlaws, I mean, it was very scrappy yesterday, but one of their keys to success on this map in particular is being able to play a very aggressive backline. Jake was talking about it a little bit on the desk yesterday, but you look at something like the Ana and Kiriko that Shu and Violet, respectively, are able to bring out of their back pocket, and we've seen how that's been able to work in this series so far, with both of these teams trying to make sure that they are able to get into the backline. I mean, Violet's Kiriko is kind of nuts.
kind of, right?
Kind of a
Violet
little bit.
is insane.
Like, look at the harassment he's able to do in the backline, too. He's able to wall climb, play very slippery, make sure he's getting some great damage into the actual backline of Florida Mayhem, and then Fearless comes in and cleaves.
Yeah, I know we saw it for half of Kings Row, but also seeing Violet Zen always gets me excited here to see how that's
Might see
play.
that, too.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes down here. Depending on the comp that we're going to roll out. Something that Florida Mayhem obviously finding the success on where they feel comfortable with is that rush as we get started potentially on the last map. Now Necro, Houston Outlaws, once again, are sitting at match point.
Gets me so hyped up because it
man.
really could be the final map of this series to see who will be moving on to face off against the Atlanta Reign in the grand finals of our Midseason Madness tournament. And we're going to see a bit of a switch up here. Someone coming out on the Doomfist. We saw Fearless on this pick to be able to kick off this map yesterday, but it's going to be the Ana Kiriko for the Houston Outlaws, the Lucio Kiriko from the Florida Mayhem. Florida trying to play a very aggressive game with these dives.
And look at their positioning already. You highlight aggressiveness. They're already positioned on top of the train cards right above the bot, which is a great position to hold on to as Shu gets punched right out of the window right now, trying to fight for his life, but it's not going to be enough. Look, Checkmate on the rest of Florida Mayhem. They rolled out and they were able to find Shu, but that's going to cost RuPaul's life. Nice hack coming in from Pelican, because immediately the Houston Outlaws had answers being put into a different position while Florida Mayhem were kind of funneled up together when they escaped through that window.
Houston Outlaws are going to be able to get control of this bot first, and it's starting to look a little bit treacherous here for the Florida Mayhem. Especially when Houston Outlaws, they lost Shu so early, but Violet was able to change his focus onto healing the team a little bit more. He's already 75% to the Kitsune Rush right now versus RuPaul's 34%, almost double of what's going to be seen here as Houston Outlaws are starting to get that halfway point to the first checkpoint.
We know that Shu's been a problem, especially with how consistent he is on sleeps. And Charon going down first as Shu once again gets shut down, denying that ult charge opportunity into the nano boost that Houston Outlaws want to play into, especially looking at the EMP coming up closely by Pelican, nearing that 80% mark as Happy unleashes the pulse bomb, is going to be able to find someone, and his only escape route covered.
But Houston Outlaws are playing around that. Despite the fact that Shu is going down, you're still able to keep the pressure going here as, look at the Kitsune Rush, look at Pelican, the backline right now of the Houston Outlaws.
They got Florida Mayhem's plan, playing aggressively, and put it in the dumpster and said, "Now that's ours." And now we're seeing a swap up from someone playing the D.Va. I mean, we've seen D.Va played her before to try to take over the high ground here, but right now, Houston Outlaws, look at the progress that they've made. They're about to round up to the first checkpoint.
But the Moira too. Florida Mayhem are so behind on their ultimate generation. They really need Merit's EMP to be a big threat in this next team fight.
That swift step. Hasta la vista here as the EMP comes in and it finds Checkmate and Chorong, and that's the EMP charge that we talked about earlier on that Houston Outlaws were going to play into since they already had the advantage. Pelican and Happy are going crazy, getting the hack 2 on the health pack here over to the back. It's going to also enable Houston Outlaws to take this forward position.
But Pelican being able to hit the EMP first, Merit has had a problem this entire tournament. Finding the right opportunity to be able to use these EMPs. RuPaul's down already. The Kitsune Rush gonna be off the board for this next fight.
And that's gonna be more time wasted away as EMP now comes in. All right, it's the trade-off here. It's gonna be Violet going down next. EMP hitting onto 3. Shu still surviving. Oh, but not for long with Checkmate. Gonna be able to find that pulse bomb and Fearless falling low, and he's got no sustainability. We talked about the health pack being hacked here, and it's not gonna be able to help out Fearless with small health pack.
He could have used the Primal Rage there. He did have that available, but it's something that you would rather hold on to, especially when you know you've got the closer spawns here as well. Everybody's back on the board before that has been shut off by the Florida Mayhem. Violet going down though. Merit maybe starting to get on a roll here when it comes down to being able to outmatch Pelican right now on that EMP charge. Big pick on a Happy too. Florida Mayhem, they need to start getting some progress down with that meterage, and this might be the opening to do so.
To check against Tracer here. Kiriko, so good. The damage output. And all you need is that 150 damage out here. Pelican's going to find Merit. Nice change up too, because then you're going to have Pelican having the EMP ult charge advantage, while Violet be taken out by someone. Making this D.Va pick work here, playing around the bubble is also very nice to see. You get to immediately reposition before you reset from the D.Va bomb. Also just waiting for the rest of Florida Mayhem to come here. I like the plan and the way that Florida Mayhem are positioning themselves in terms of timing too.
Happy has forced to recall though, has the pulse bomb online, is looking for someone like Chorong to be able to stick that onto, or at least be able to force out.
Oh, narrowly escaping the nano boost now after avoiding that coalescence. We know Chorong's gonna be able to get that online again soon, but a huge EMP finds 4 after he just hacked RuPaul here. Are we gonna get the follow-up though, potentially? No. No follow-up here, forcing Pelican away. Houston Outlaws a little bit split up here, but Florida Mayhem are trying to match them with that.
Florida Mayhem had a lot of those mobility cooldowns online when Pelican hit the EMP as well. The Chorong able to fade away, Merit now able to clap back.
Hey, you know, even with that one EMP, that's all you need because you denied the rush. You get the trade-off because now Merit gets taken out here too, as well as a hack put onto someone, but you'll just be able to reposition right afterwards. Recall from Checkmate. He's waiting. He's got the pulse bomb ready. Can he send it out if he has the opportunity with Shu being right there? This doesn't even need to use it. He's got some help with someone. They're going to take care of Shu too. Look at the progress now. Seesaw on this push bot.
Job's not done yet though. Florida Mayhem at this point need to at least be able to get this next checkpoint. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough to claw back from. Someone taking out Pelican, though, that's a great way to be able to stem a little bit of that pressure, especially with the EMP, but time for Kitsune Rush from Violet to try to make up for that lack of player.
But look at Florida Mayhem, just being able to kite away from there, just reposition in the split area on both high grounds. On the train car inside of that building, Fearless getting hacked here by Merit. Checkmate still holding on to this pulse bomb, waiting for the opportunity as the Kitsune Rush now gets called in from RuPaul. See RuPaul now take advantage of this, trying to give some support over to someone who has a D.Va bomb, so that way they can go for the reset, but that's without Chorong going down, without using the coalescence themselves. It's fine, Checkmate finding the back line as the Houston Outlaws are trickling down, falling like a pair of dominoes.
That's going to be able to unlock that first checkpoint for the Florida Mayhem as well. So very close to starting to be able to match that progress from the Houston Outlaws. You still have a couple of tools to work with as well. Checkmate putting in so much work that he has another pulse bomb online for this next fight. That could be detrimental for the Houston Outlaws, but RuPaul's down.
Oh, we didn't have the step here too. I don't know. They knew that there was 2 right there, and the EMP on top of that. Someone doesn't have an ability to reset. You didn't have the D.Va bomb. It's a matter of time before he gets reset, and this is going to be the Houston Outlaws using a lot here. They had the EMP, they used the Primal, they take over this team fight win, and they're going to be able to now put the bot back in their favor.
It's really important that they were able to deny Florida Mayhem from getting the leg up in this map. They shut off those forward spawns as well as the bot starts to go back into their own territory. But Mara does another EMP. Looking for the perfect opportunity to be able to use this right now as she's also getting set up with the Coalescence, trying to stay out of that line of sight.
That's going to be the answer to that EMP that they're going to want to use. But Shu uses the Coalescence first here, getting away in time. Already used up Fade. That could be communicating here for the Florida Mayhem, as that's exactly what they do. The answer, the EMP, deny the rest of the Coalescence and isolate Shu. Violet tries to enter back with the Kitsune Rush as he gets hacked right afterwards. Now, currently, you see Merit, you see Checkmate, and they are following with each other beautifully here. Someone sacrificed themselves, but it was all worth it here as the Florida Mayhem are able to retake this bot.
But going back to the neutral, Houston Outlaws are already back on their feet, going to be able to get back into this one so quickly, especially when Pelican has been doing so much work in the backline that another EMP is almost online, but Shu's got to be careful, almost got hacked out and caught with his pants down without the fade.
He faded so quickly. I was like, that is not my problem in that situation here. He manages to get the safety. Pelican with the EMP finds the backline. Huge here if we can get the follow. But draw with the Coalescence keeps RuPaul alive. Someone on this Diva has had so much success. Now finding Fearless, the follow-ups here, allowing Torog to keep someone alive and to enable him to keep holding forward.
The bot is moving so quickly back into Florida Mayhem territory. You get a chance to start pushing it forward now is someone with the Diva Bomb available can play so aggressive. You know that you're able to have that get out of jail free card. But the Kitsune Rush now get laid down.
Off the hack there too. Shu and Violet not having a good time in these past few seconds now. Another clean wipe from the Florida Mayhem. Look at this. Look at where they're standing.
Taking the lead. They're going to take the lead here. This is really important for the Florida Mayhem, especially now that we're getting into 1 minute remaining territory. That means that Houston Outlaws are going to have to win 3 fights in order to be able to have a decisive victory on this map and take the series.
3.
Shu is down.
3 to fight Shu, and then the EMP. Doesn't matter if Violet was already low. It's about forcing the Houston Outlaws to triple out, to stagger them. We still get the retaliation for the Houston Outlaws. We see them find 2. Chorong and someone out of this fight, and RuPaul may meet them back in the spawn when you have Fearless primaling in your face here. Now, with Houston Outlaws, despite losing out on that backline to start off that fight, they're still able to take this more aggressive position that you currently see Fearless in.
Florida Mayhem can still play keep away with this bot though. They have the lead. It's 30 seconds remaining and they're really looking at Chorong to try to get a Coalescence online. But with Happy, with a Pulse Bomb, this might slip through Florida Mayhem's fingers, looking for an opportunity to get that Pulse Bomb down. And Pelican with another EMP coming up soon.
It's going to be a huge decision maker here too. Saw Pelican trying to farm that EMP charge onto someone originally. Shu's got that nano boost, and someone's incredibly low. Seeing this battle between someone and Fearless has just been insane. Now you have less than 5 seconds on the
Pelican.
clock. Florida Mayhem, they have the lead here. Pelican's waiting to get into the position to use the EMP. Oh, and he unleashes it out to the back line. Are we going to get the follow-up? Look at Fearless trying to jump in. Violet finding Mary is also huge here. Florida Mayhem's backline manages to survive, and on overtime, you got to stay on this bot. This is going to force the Houston Outlaws to play around this area, and that's completely fine with them. Still uses the Coalescence, but they're down 3 members. Is this going to be enough here with the nano boost put onto Violet?
This could be it. This could be it. No reinforcements with the Florida Mayhem available. It's just going to be Mara to try to touch.
No way! No way! Mara was right there too. Oh, but it was too late. Houston Outlaws with the timing.
The timing of that one, so good for the Houston Outlaws. And with the win on New Queen Street, that puts them right back into the finals against the Atlanta Reign, trying to get the repeat. They gotta get it done now, Vicky. They gotta get it done now.
I cannot believe the end's right there. Houston Outlaws with the dub, getting closer to obtaining that trophy themselves, Necra, sitting in the grand finals to play against the Atlanta Reign to get the revenge that they need. Pelican, by the way, in the last game alone, he got like 36 hacks.
Oh my God. Just the DPS. The DPS of the Houston Outlaws went absolutely sicko mode when it came down to being able to clutch that out for their team. Whether it was Happy. You gotta talk about Happy as well. Just the amount of pressure he was able to put onto the backline. Houston Outlaws were so set up for success in this match. The story has written itself. We're just watching the destiny unfold.
Seeing Houston Outlaws deny the script from the Florida Mayhem of loving these Game 5 situations, says no. At the very end, staying on that bot and taking that map was so close, Necra. And even seeing at the very end, RuPaul with the final stride of just using that coalesce and seeing what he could get done, but he already lost out on 3.
It was a really rough situation for the Florida Mayhem to come back from. But what an excellent example of why New Queen Street was picked there from the Houston Outlaws to try to close out this series. They have such a great understanding of the map, where the health packs are, where they can start to take these fights, how to funnel their opponent into these close spaces. They got so much done, and now they get a chance to get that revenge. Vicky, this grand finals is going to be so fun to watch.
And that also closed the door on Florida Mayhem sitting in 3rd. They had such an insane performance, highlighting the fact that they went down in that first round against Hangzhou Spark, then playing that lower bracket run like demons to get to this lower bracket finals. They put in a lot of work, and they also looked great on that push map in comparison to the previous push map attempts that we saw from the Florida Mayhem. So props to them for making the adjustments that they needed.
What a good point to bring up that incredible lower bracket run there by the Florida Mayhem. This is a team that they started out their season so strong, winning the Pro-Am, being able to show so many different looks, really showing their progression and evolution as a team throughout the course of this first half of the season. They were able to take down the Los Angeles Gladiators. They had to make the lower bracket run there through the knockouts in order to even get to this point. The scrappiness of the team. Gotta give it up for the Florida Mayhem there. Commiserations to them. But Fearless, come on now, let's re-celebrate the Houston Outlaws being able to make it to the finals.
Yeah, I said at the very end, you know, one of the most entertaining fights is seeing the Someone versus Fearless play out here. And Fearless is just so crazy. We talk about this all the time, but look at this. Even in the terms of just following up between the hacks, the Nano Boost Primal into the combo, into finding so much space in that second point there too, dealing with the Ram Rush at one point, one of Florida's best comps that they could run out. The only Western team that really has been able to find their footing on a composition like that and dealing with it appropriately. Even someone who came out first on that push map with the Doomfist had to immediately swap over to the Diva, and despite even finding that success, it was Fearless that was able to take care of someone at the very end. As we take a look at the stats, survivability. I keep bringing this up because it's always so crazy to talk about here. 4 deaths here. You got final blows, 8.2, that's fine. You enable the rest of your DPS, but the elims here, 19 elims.
It's so much, like, Fearless is putting in so much work. It's no question why we tout him as one of the best Winstons in the entire league. Especially knowing as well just the amount of pressure you're able to put on, not only with the Winston in the front line, but also the back line. Look at the aggressive stance that the back line of the Houston Outlaws were able to take in this match, and also just some of their previous matches. One of the first teams to really start to rely on the Moira and the Kiriko to try to flank around with Fearless on the Winston.
I get it. I get why, you know, he was on the lineup for the K-pop group that we had going on earlier. I mean, he really is Fearless at the end of the day, and he puts that name to the task here. Fearless is such an insane player, and now we get to see him shine in an excellent series that we have on our hands coming up next, Necra. I cannot wait to see how this grand finals is going to play out, and there's a lot to break down after that previous series. We saw some life coming in from the Florida Mayhem. It just wasn't enough to bring in the script of playing in these Game 5 situations. You don't want to play your life on the line here. Houston Outlaws are absolutely going to take that walk and get closer to that trophy. Guys, that was the first series in the lower bracket finals. We got grand finals on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it.
Wicked Moira, truly a legendary skin, probably one, if not the best Moira skin out there, and it is on sale right now. It will cost you 300 League tokens, and it will be off sale on July 11th. So grab it while it's there, and yeah, we have more things to look forward to, not just the skin. We also have a fantastic winner interview standing by with Danny and Pelican.
Sorry, thank you so much. I'm here with Pelican for the post-match interview with Houston Outlaws versus Florida Mayhem. I'm going to move by very quick. I want you to take that break for the grand final. So Pelican, how'd you guys get it done? 자, 빠르게 움직입시다. 다음 경기가 중요한 거기 때문에 펠리컨 선수 오늘 플로리다 메이햄과의 경기 어떻게 승리를 하시게 되셨습니까?
솔직히 메이햄은 하나도 무섭지 않았는데 생각보다 빡세더라고요. 그래서 뭐 하던 대로 했는데 잘 이긴 것 같아요.
Honestly, going into the match, we were not scared of the Florida Mayhem, but surprisingly, they were really good. So, but fortunately, we were better, and I am just thankful that we did get the win. I think as the series went on, Florida had a lot of different and unique looks. I think we saw some Ryan Cassidy, and all the way up to New Queen Street, they were pulling out the Diva. What was sort of the Houston Outlaws' answer to all those interesting comps? 자, 방금 말씀하셨다시피 생각보다 아무래도 플로리다가 잘했던 거는 저도 인정을 하고요. 아무래도 그 중에 하나가 뭐 되게 다양한 조합을 많이 썼던 것 같아요. 그 플로리다 팀이 뭐 라인 캐서디뿐만이 아니라 끝에 가서 마지막 세트에서도 디바도 나왔고 좀 이런 거를 보면서 휴스턴의 답은 뭐였나요?
솔직히 이상한 조합을 들고 와가지고 좀 당황하긴 했는데 그래서 모이라 6킨 때 뭐 모이라도 꺼내고 했는데 그것도 안 돼가지고 다시 아나브리로 바꿔와서 힘들게 이겼던 것 같아요.
It was definitely there were some weird comps from the Florida Mayhem, and that definitely threw us off guard. They sort of forced us to even pull out our own Moira as well, but that didn't really work out for our team. We had to go back to